Since I was a child, I could feel the presence of something unseen. Every house I lived in, there was always something following. Sometimes just a feeling, sometimes a faint figure. But the house we bought in 2006 was different. Very different. This house changed everything. My husband and I bought the house with a sense of relief. Finally, we had a permanent place, our own home. We knew the wife of the previous owner had died of cancer, but we weren't sure whether she died in the house or at the hospital. The first few months felt normal. But then, something began to awaken. Our nights started to be filled with the sound of footsteps on the wooden stairs. Creak, 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 slowly ascending. Then came the sound of steps down the hallway and stopping right in front of our bedroom door. Every night, always at the same time, 2:33 a.m., right outside our room and our child's room, who was only 4.5 at the time. But when we opened the door, there was nothing. Silence. Cold. I tried to think rationally. Maybe the wood was expanding. But the next night, the footsteps sounded heavier, as if it wasn't just one, but many, like a group of people climbing the stairs and standing in the hallway. Until one night, my husband and I were being intimate in bed. Suddenly, my body shivered. Not from the cold, but from a deep fear. The feeling of death. As if I knew I was going to die that night. I turned around and looked at the ceiling. Dark, but from the slightly open door, shadows began to enter. 1, 2, 3, until I couldn't count them anymore. The shadows slowly moved, circling our ceiling as if they were sitting, forming an arena, watching us, waiting for something. They were silent, but I could feel their breath. I could hear whispers, not in any human language. Their tongues seemed to gnaw at my ears. In my mind, words appeared. "We will take you tonight." My hand trembled as I turned on the light. Then the TV. My husband only saw a faint shadow in the corner of the room, but I knew they were still there. I screamed at them to leave, begged for protection from light and bright spirits. Slowly they disappeared, but the fear stayed in my body like a cold burn. A few days later, my child said he saw a dark figure in front of his door. He couldn't move, just stared at it. Another time, he saw a hooded figure standing at the end of the hallway, silent. But as he tried to go to the bathroom, the figure dashed toward him. He ran to his room, closed the door, and hid under the blanket crying. I knew this was more than just a restless spirit. This house held something evil. Objects started moving on their own. A book from the kitchen appeared in the bathroom. My child's doll hung from the ceiling fan. Plates shattered even though no one touched them. Our nights were filled with nightmares that felt too real. Burning alive, being strangled by shadows, dragged into a dark hole under the house. I went to see a psychic. Without me saying anything, just by mentioning my name, she looked at me with widened eyes. "There is a dark entity in your house. It is not human. It is keeping your guardian angel and the spirits of your family outside the house. They cannot enter. You are being made into a vessel. If it's not cleansed, you will be taken completely." I went home and did the cleansing as she instructed. Burned sage, placed salt in every corner, drew protection symbols. But after that, the terror changed form. On the 4th night after the cleansing, I woke up to the sound of sobbing. It sounded like my husband, but he was sleeping next to me. I turned and saw he was still asleep, but the sobbing came from the hallway. I walked out carrying a candle. On the hallway walls were strange symbols that had carved themselves. Circular symbols like eyes staring at me. At the end of the hallway, my child stood, but his face was empty. His eyes were black, his tongue stuck out unnaturally, and his body trembled. From his mouth came an old, raspy voice full of rage. "We have waited thousands of years, and you come bringing light." I screamed, but couldn't move. My child was possessed. My husband came and immediately embraced him. He read prayers, but our child roared like an animal, Claws, bites, black spit. Blood started coming from his eyes. We finally tied him up and called the priest. As the priest entered, the candles throughout the house extinguished on their own. Darkness, silence, then a scream. A scream that cracked the window glass. The exorcism ritual lasted for 6 hours. My child screamed, laughed, cursed, and spoke in many voices. But when my husband's voice said, "Let my child go, take me instead," my child fell silent. The entity looked at him, I could feel it. Then, my husband began to tremble. He fell, and his body stopped breathing. The priest screamed. I cried, held my husband's corpse. Then a bright light enveloped his body. He smiled at me. "I will protect you both from here." And we buried my husband like any regular burial. After the burial, I knew the war wasn't over. A few weeks later, I saw the spiritual circle that had once been carved into the wall now reappear under my bed. But every time I felt afraid, my husband appeared in my dreams and said, "Don't be afraid. I stand between them and you." One night, I had a nightmare. I saw all those dark spirits sitting back on the ceiling. But this time, my husband stood in the middle of them with a blinding light that burned them one by one. I woke up in tears and with a warm feeling in my heart. That house was never truly cleansed, but the dark spirits knew. Someone stronger was protecting us. And I believe true love can even pierce the spirit world. And since that night, my child sleeps peacefully. No more black-robed figures, no more footsteps on the stairs. However, on certain nights when the clock strikes 2:33 a.m., I can still smell my husband's cologne and hear a gentle whisper in my ear, "I'm still here."